I'm quite confident this will be one of the more helpful guitar videos you're ever going to watch. I feel like I've come up with a pretty good system on how you can learn a chord, then learn the matching scale, and then also the matching arpeggio, and then as well as that, know which chords can fit together. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to improvise around chord progressions, playing arpeggio notes, scale notes, being able to outline chord tones, all that good stuff. And you'll have a good roadmap of what you need to learn and how to learn it to master your fretboard. And as always, the PDF to accompany this video will be available for free. Just check in the description. All I ask is that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even share the video with a friend. Now with all that out of the way, let's get into it. So what we're going to do is go through each bar chord shape, the major, minor on the E string and A string, and then we're going to go over the matching scale, the matching arpeggio, and then at the end we're going to go over how you can play chord progressions and know which chords fit together. So the first chord shape we're going to tackle is the major bar chord on the E string. So for now we're just going to play it on this 5th fret up here. So this major E string bar chord shape. So this would be an A major chord. So that would be your first diagram up the top. Now moving on, the pentatonic shape that's going to fit that chord is going to be box 2 of the pentatonic scale. Now on the diagram, I've left the red line as a reference to where the bar chord would be, and the green squares are just going to be where your scale tones are. So if I play my major bar chord, those green squares are going to be my pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale, and all those notes are going to fit with the major bar chord. And I can move that major bar chord anywhere I want, and that's going to work. I could play a C major bar chord, and the pentatonic shape that surrounds it will still be the same. Play F sharp major. Still going to play that pentatonic shape too around it. And that's going to fit. So when you're playing a major bar chord on the E string, pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale is going to be the scale you want to play with it. Now in the third diagram, we have that scale shape written out like before, but you'll notice there's red notes. Now these will be your chord tones or arpeggio notes within that scale shape or that region of the fretboard you're playing the chord. And as well as that, there's numbers written in them. These are the scale degrees or intervals. So you'll see the arpeggio notes are your 1 through 5 because this would be a major chord or major tonality, right? So if I play my E major bar chord shape and I play those red notes, these would be my chord tones, right? And I can also add in those green notes if I want to do my full pentatonic scale, right? And you'll see there's a lot of overlap. So I can do arpeggio notes, scale tones, arpeggio, scale. Cool. So if you're wanting a strong sense of resolution or answer notes, as I like to put it, you want to be targeting those arpeggio notes. And as well as that, if you're wanting to outline the chord or imply a chord, targeting those arpeggio notes or those red notes is going to be what you want to do. Moving on, we have our major bar chord if our root note's on the A string. So for example, if we're on the A string 5th fret, this is a D note and I can play my major bar chord there. Or if you want to do it like this is another way people play that chord. Now the matching pentatonic shape to that chord will be box 5 of the pentatonic scale, which you can see on the diagram. So if I play this shape here, that's going to match my major bar chord shape on the A string, or my D major bar chord in this example. Now if I wanted to play the arpeggio notes around that, I can look at the next diagram, which will have those arpeggio notes highlighted in red. So in this box, I have my 1 here, I have my 5th down here if I want to play that too, my 1 again, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. So if I wanted to outline this D major chord in my lead lines, these are the notes I'm going to want to target. But remember, you can also mix in the pentatonic notes. Arpeggio, scale tone, arpeggio. So now you know with your major chords on your E string and A string where the scale notes are and where the arpeggio notes are within the scale. So something you could practice right now is doing a 1-4 chord progression, which would be an A major chord here, and then your 4 chord, which would be a D major here. And you can practice playing the chord, doing the surrounding scale tones, which would be pattern 2 for that E major, then playing the arpeggio, then moving to your 4 chord, playing the matching scale shape, which would be pattern 5, finishing on the root note, and then playing the arpeggio. or this 5 down here as well. Now moving on to the minor chords. So our first chord shape we're going to do is the E minor bar chord shape on the E string. Now the surrounding scale tones for that E minor shape would be pattern 1 of the pentatonic scale. So if I'm ever playing that minor bar chord shape on the E string, pattern 1 is going to work. Now moving on, looking at the arpeggio notes, let's play through those. So we have 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3. These would be our chord tones. Right, now the last chord shape we're going to look at is the minor bar chord shape on the A string. So this A minor shape, in this example would be in the key of D because this is a D note on the A string. Now the surrounding pentatonic box for that is box 4. Now the next diagram, looking at our arpeggio notes, we have a 5 here, a 1, flat 3, 5, 1, flat 3, 5. These will be all our chord tones, and we can still blend it in with our scale. So let's just recap all of those quickly and then we'll move on to the next step. So major bar chord on the E string, pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale is going to fit with that, and our arpeggio notes are the red notes. Then our major bar chord on the A string, which would be here, the matching pentatonic scale is pattern 5. Then the arpeggio. Then we move on to our minor bar chord on the E string, the E minor shape. Pattern 1 of the pentatonic scale is going to be our matching scale. Then our arpeggio notes will be these ones here. Now the last one, which is our minor bar chord shape on the A string, our matching pentatonic shape would be pattern 4. And our arpeggio notes would be there. So now you know a matching scale and arpeggio for all your basic bar chords. Now to top it all off, I've got a map of which chords are going to fit together in major and minor keys, so you can actually apply all this stuff to chord progressions or make some up on your own. So this first diagram here is going to be a major chord progression chart, and all the numbers just represent the root notes of where all the chords are built. Then if it's a green square, you play a major bar chord from those root notes, or if it's a red square, you play a minor bar chord from those root notes. If I wanted to play in the key of A, like this diagram is, I would start my 1 chord from this A note here, and I would play my E string major bar chord shape to fit that. Then if I wanted to play my 4 chord, I would hop up to the A string here, and because I'm on the A string now, I would play a major bar chord but for the A string. Then my 5 chord over here, 2 frets across, would be this. Now if I wanted to play my 2 chord, I would go onto this note here on the E string and play a minor bar chord shape. Right? And then back to my 1. My 3 chord would be here on the A string, and a minor bar chord shape on the A string, which would be this one here. My 6 chord would be 2 frets back and 1 string up from there, and it would be a minor bar chord, and then back to my 1. So if I put some of this into practice, so my 1 chord, major E string, then play my arpeggio notes if I want, or my scale tones, which would be pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale, to match this. Then my 3 chord would be here, and because it's this minor bar chord shape on the A string, I would play pattern 4 of the pentatonic. Or I could do my arpeggio notes. My 4 chord over here, major on the A string, so I know my matching pentatonic shape is pattern 5. Or my arpeggio notes to really outline that chord. Then my 6 chord back here, because it's a minor bar chord shape on the E string, I would play pattern 1. Or I could play my arpeggio notes here. Then back to my 1. And you'll notice some chords are doubled up on there. That's because it's the exact same chord, just in different octaves. So for example, we have our 6th chord back here or up here. These are both F sharp minor chords. Right, on this one I'm playing the E string shape because the root note's on the E string. On this one I'm playing the A string shape because the root note's on the A string. Now with this chord chart, all these chords move the same relative to each other, and wherever you line up the 1 is going to determine the key you're in. So for example, if I'm in A like this chart is written, my 1, 4 and 5 will look like this. If I wanted to play that same chord progression in B, for example, I just find a B note, which I know is the 7th fret on the low E, and then I play the exact same thing relative to where my 1 is. Okay, if I wanted a 1, 4, 5 in F sharp, I find a F sharp, 1, 4, 5, 1. So this stuff is really useful and will apply to any key. Now the next diagram is the exact same idea. Okay, you have the root notes for all the chords and the different colors, but it's if your 1 chord was on the A string, which is really useful in keys like, D or E, because you might not want to be starting your 1 chord all the way up here on the 10th fret in D. You could start it from this D note here on the A string. Okay, so if I wanted to play a 1, 4, 5 in D major, I have my 1 chord here, and then my 4 chord would actually be back here on the E string, and it's a major chord, 5 chord, major. If I wanted my 6 chord, I would go 2 across, play a minor bar chord because it's red, my 2 chord would be here, and then back to my 1. And all this stuff we talked about with scales and chord shapes obviously applies to this too. Now I could go 1 chord, pattern 5, 4 chord, pattern 2, 5, pattern 2 because it's a major E string chord, 6 chord, pattern 1, 2 chord, pattern 4, 3 chord, pattern 4, then back to my 1 chord. And again, wherever you line up this 1 is going to determine the key you're in. So if I wanted to play an E, I have an E note here on the 7th fret of the A string. I would start my 1 chord there, 4 chord would still be back here, 2 frets back on the E string, 3 chord, back 1 from there, 5 chord, 3 up from there, and back to my 1 chord. So you really want to try and memorize the intervals or the distance between these chord root notes, and then you just got to remember what tonality the chord needs to be. Now moving on is the exact same idea, but with minor chord progressions, if you want something a bit darker sound. So in minor chord progressions, our 1 chord will be minor, because it's a red square. 4 chord up here will be minor, 5 chord, minor. We have our flat 6 chord over here. Don't worry about why it's called that for now. Then we have our flat 3 chord over here, which is major, 1 chord, flat 7 chord, flat 6 chord, major, flat 3 chord up here, major. So that would be your minor chord progressions if your 1 chord is on the E string. And again, you can shift this to any key you want. You just have to line up the 1 with your target key's root note. Now the last diagram, just like before, is we have our 1 chord if your root note is on the A string for minor keys. So in this particular example, it's in the key of D minor, because we're on the 5th fret of the A string. That would be my 1 chord. As a minor chord, then our 4 chord back here, 5 chord, over here, minor as well. Flat 6 chord, up 1 from there. Flat 7 chord, up 2 from there. Both of those are major. Flat 3 chord, over here. Got a 4 chord all the way up here if you want. Then your 1 chord, again back here. Flat 7, 2 back, major. Flat 6, 2 back, major. Flat 7, up 2, major. So by learning those chord maps, you should have an idea of how to play through chord progressions in any part of the guitar really, in any key, major or minor. So practice playing through those a bit too, and applying all the stuff we talked about in terms of the scales and arpeggios that go with the chord shapes. If you combine that with these chord maps, you'll have so much freedom on your guitar. You'll be able to play chords anywhere and then play little licks in between. You'll be able to highlight the chord progressions because you know where the arpeggio notes are. It's going to really open things up for you. So I hope that was all helpful, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. But otherwise, thanks for watching and see you next time.